Meet Elizabeth Johnson, CEO of Pathformance, the disruptor who strides into rooms full of marketing vets and instantly makes them rethink their strategies. From making data geeks and brand execs play nice to reimagining shopper marketing, Elizabeth is shaking up the industry with no apologies. If you're still clutching your KPIs like a lifeline, you're in for a wake-up call. Elizabeth, welcome to Mad Women on the Attatat Show. Let's stir things up.
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet the company litigation? No problem. That's why we're here. Troutman Amin, LLP is a true legal powerhouse.
Hey, it's Case Lock Blacken here on the Adotit Show, where we don't just sip the marketing Kool-Aid, we spike it. Today I'm grilling Elizabeth Johnson, the CEO of Pathformance, the woman who's turning digital shopper marketing on its head while making the data geeks and brand execs play nice together. Stick around because this is going to be fun unless you're allergic to truth bombs. All right, Elizabeth, you've been anointed with titles like Tech Trailblazer, Woman of Excellent. This is not exactly small potatoes, but let's strip away the press releases and get to the meat of it. What is it like to walk into a room of seasoned pros, many of them who are still trying to wrap their heads around TikTok, and say, buckle up, I am going to rewrite the rules?
Yeah, absolutely. And glad to be here and everything. Yeah, just being in the rooms where, people are trying to change the industry and, make a name for themselves and everything. It's really comes down to, adding what's valuable to the industry and understanding what, makes the industry exciting and innovative, and people stand up to, take notice and listening and everything. And for where we stand, innovation is our platform where we, try to engage the whole industry across everything that we're doing. So I don't know if that makes sense, but just really part of what we do every day is being in rooms where everybody is changing the industry.
Do you ever feel like you're the only one, however, holding the match while everyone else is asking where the lighter fluid is?
Sometimes, and sometimes it's just being that voice of reason of, this is what's, best for the industry, instead of trying to go all different areas and everything and, shiny objects where advertisers don't know where to focus. It's like, okay, what are, the truths that we need to be looking at? So, just really that voice of reason and taming the flames, if you will.
So when you're the one pushing for change, how often do you find yourself having to be the bad cop just to get things moving? Do you have like a secret bat signal to use to call reinforcements when you're dealing with a room full of dinosaurs?
Yeah, sometimes, change can be, daunting for everybody, and, just really listening to what's happening, but then really being able to say, there's a reason behind, the changes need to be made, and, what's working today is not going to work in the future. And let's, really put that collaborative effort together to make some changes in the industry, and not just always done what's always worked, but really trying to go out on a limb and make that innovation happen in the industry. It's good, but there's always a way that you have to present it, and, you get your audience on board and, present the voices of reasons of why it needs to be done.
Do you get the biggest pushback from?
It's the way things have always been done, right? The industry and media has kind of been static for the last 20 years, right? You figure out a campaign, you buy the media, you measure, and you activate, right? So really, changing that and asking for people to understand the impact at the end of it versus everything that goes into it is really important. To really, stepping back before we're just activating just for the sake of activating, right? There has to be some KPIs behind that. And what's it best at the ultimate end is the shopper that is on the receiving end of these advertisements. So really trying to expand the way that media is purchased. It's kind of just been in this vacuum for a long time, and, adding, AI that's coming into everyone's conversation, that predictability into it is really, going to make things better and easier and more precise.
So, tired of ads that make you want to gouge your eyes out? So are we. At Origin, we've remastered TV advertising to actually capture your attention and deliver real results. Ditch the same old, and elevate your brand with dynamic, captivating ad experiences. Expect better, expect Origin.
What are the KPIs that are important, and which ones that we should throw away?
Traditional KPIs from where we stand from the measurement perspective is, did sales increase? So a sales lift is really critical. And then we're always cautious about the ROAS metric. We have been on conversations, same meeting, where we have the CMO and a salesperson on the call, and someone's super excited with the ROAS, and someone else is like, oh no, how do I take this back to, my boss and saying we didn't get one, right? So really understanding the metric of ROAS, and our team does a really good job of understanding before campaigns go, because we've seen it happen on the other end. If it's not met, that we do a lot of guidance about that. So I think ROAS gets a little bit, tossed around as the end all be all metric, but sometimes things can be good even though there's not a ROAS. And also it depends on the volume of, those sales of the brand anyway selling. So the complexities of that is interesting. And then, the topic of incrementality comes up a lot as well. The true meaning of incrementality is, truly understanding what happens if you didn't have advertising and doing campaigns during that time frame. And it kind of measures the difference of the impact of media and had you not had media and the impact of that. So it's really, understanding what would have happened in the absence and then making that all of incrementality. So really also want to be, cautious about talking about that metric as well.
To be honest, awards can often be like participation trophies for adults. However, which one actually matters to you and which one is more like a really shiny doorstop?
Absolutely. The one that is really near and dear to my heart is the Women of Excellence Industry Impact. I think that is an amazing award, awarded by peers in the industry. And, truly it's not a personal award, but it's an award being on the impact of, myself and Pathformance on the industry. And especially in the industry where, females are, not as prevalent as, the males at the top of the industry. So I think it's a really cool award. And honestly, I wouldn't, disvalue any award that I've received just because most of them are industry given and earned that way. And, I've been judges on these awards as well and understand the strict criteria and what goes into it, and amazing, people in their careers and what they're doing to impact, advertising and industry. So I don't think I have one that I would discount. I hold them very near and dear.
So when you won it, did you do a victory dance or did you just play it cool with a humble nod?
An internal victory dance, and it was just great to look out in the audience and see my team there and then familiar faces in the industry. So it was a great moment, and really not lost on me that it's not just myself, right, that is the one doing it. It's the whole team, and I'm very much team focused. Very rarely do I use the word I in my conversation. So really embracing it and just realize, it's a really, really cool moment in my career.
So you've also mentored a fair share of newbies. What's the absolute worst piece of career advice you've heard someone peddling to the next generation?
Yeah. The tried and true comes up often of, focus on your weaknesses and bring those up to be a strength. I still say throw that out the window, right? We really want to be doubling down on what you're strong at and delegate or don't focus on the weaknesses, right? It slows you down. You're stressed about things that don't necessarily matter versus if you can rise to the top of your strength, the rest will fall in place, or you develop a way to not even have to have them as part of your career, right? So I think it's really needs to just focus on your strengths.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of my financial advisors, Sam Beller, who's I mentioned before on the show, whose son is the drummer of They Might Be Giants, the kids band, and his other son is a partner at Goldman Sachs. He says strengthen your strengths.
And the energy that comes from focusing on your strength is way more powerful than the struggle that comes with, rising to your weakness. So I love it.
So what is the reaction when you hear someone drop a line like, just fake it until you make it?
That is an interesting one. I think it can be used to instill confidence, right? Like I'm always kind of in the mindset of act as if, and I've used that many times, in my career in different ways, act as if you're already an ex-revenue company, act as if you belong in this room, act as if your voice matters. So I do think it has its time and place. I think it can be disingenuous if you're using it for the wrong reasons or come off as, cocky about it or something like that. But I think if it gets you into that mind frame and, act as if, I think it puts you in the right mind frame to chase that success.
When advising next generation marketers, do you ever have to deliver the tough love and tell them that's not Mad Men and you'll not be drinking whiskey at 10 a.m. in a fancy office?
Yeah, that is very interesting. And, having that conversation and understanding even now how things have changed, like we have some, in office workers, some remote. So that whole thing has changed even more, understanding what that looks like. But yeah, I think it is interesting of, we really are focusing on, customers and metrics and what's happening, not just, whining and dining our clients, right? There's so many other competitors out there. There's options where they can be spending their media investment dollars and, just different ways to do that. So I think just being focused is important. I mean, there's a time and place to have those men moments that we all think back in our career, being at an amazing dinner or being able to, take a client out or something. I think that's really important and also builds that relationship. But it is also, I think an era, unfortunately, gone by, and it's most people are let's get our work done and move on to what's next or what's going on in our lives.
So if you could bulldoze one outdated industry practice and rebuild it from scratch, what would it be? And how quickly do your phone would start ringing with off the hook concerned emails?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just the overuse of collecting all the data before that you can make decisions, right? There can be a point where you're overanalyzing. We've all heard the analysis paralysis, and I think that's one thing that can hold true. And just not making decisions and waiting till you have all the data. And then once you do have the data, what are you going to do with it? How do you decipher it? How do you make decisions? I think just really, leaning in on the metrics that is at hand and making it actionable versus paralysis by too many data points. Especially younger people, they don't feel comfortable until they have all the answers in front of them. And it's like, no, it's okay. Start to make your recommendations and your insights and analysis based on the data that you have at hand.
It's a good segue into talking about data. Let's talk about data, the misunderstood teenager of the ad tech family. You've been waving the flag for standardization, trying to turn this circus of conflicting metrics into a streamlined symphony. Is this about bringing peace to the Wild West, or trying to keep everyone from making their own rules like it's recess all over again?
Great question. It is a combination of both. I think understanding kind of, the chaos that goes around with standardization where it could have a negative impact because, the advertisers aren't getting clear and concise results. But it's also, not, having control over what's happening in the industry, but working together to make it better for everybody. So I think a little bit of both, but at the end of the day, speaking the same language is very important, and it's important to the advertisers and just can lead to better campaigns and reinvesting the media dollars, and everybody wins from that perspective versus confusing the marketplace and confusing the advertisers of metrics that are meaningful or vanity metrics, or one campaign I get these results and others we have fully different ones. So absolutely, just how do we standardize, come together as an industry and really make those, metrics meaningful for everybody.
So you speak a lot about data sharing. Is it more like playing the diplomat in a high-stakes hostage negotiation, or just trying to get a bunch of kids to share their snacks?
Absolutely. It's very critical, needed in this day and age. Us, we approach it very methodically because it is a very sensitive topic and everything from that perspective. Where we come into play, we are establishing trust, and we're showing why it's important to have the data that the brands hold in their resources to share, because it just lends for that much better activation and everything from that perspective, but also showing that it is being held in a secure way and not shared and things like that. So engaging the trust with that. And it works really well, but it takes a while. And I don't think it's a topic that just any advertiser should have access to, right? It's really being able to hold it in the way that keeps the brands compliant in their retailer relationships and how they use their data from that perspective.
Is there a secret handshake that makes companies loosen their grip on precious data?
Mainly to understand the impact of their media dollar and where it's going. You can say, hey, we can give this very high level overview. Yes, it worked. Here's some metrics versus here's actually what happened. Here's what happened with your brand, your items at the store at the time. So kind of once I see the impact of having that, it's like, okay, yes, we actually need that. Especially maximizing every dollar spent and having the most effective and efficient way is critical. And then also your competitors doing it and they're getting that much granular results back or measurements. It's a point of differentiation and could be a competitive advantage to have that level of granularity.
So I want to talk a little bit about incrementality. It sounds like something that belongs in a Hogwarts spellbook. So can you break it down like Hermione for us?
Absolutely. Incrementality, it's really understanding, if you're having to do a campaign or some marketing activation versus not doing it, it's really coming down to what happens if you would not have ever done any advertising, what would have happened anyway, and taking back incrementality and adding in the activation dollars that came from that activation, and the difference between those is your incrementality. So it's
People
really
get it, or are they just nod along like they actually get what's going on?
It is truly that, but It's really understanding what happens if you wouldn't have advertised and then you did advertise. What's the difference between those two? But absolutely, it is a key metric that our team spends a lot of time kind of making sure everybody understands what it is and the way that it can be used.
Let's talk a little bit about privacy. Is GDPR and these other acronyms, which I can't remember, are they the real villains? Or is there something more sinister lurking in the shadows of data?
Yeah, absolutely. Data regulation and privacy is really important, and trying to understand where we can roll that out across the industry. But also, there's other important, topics out there as well, such as privacy, transparency, making sure the data is collected is used correctly. So I think all of those kind of roll into the whole topic of like, how do we do better for the customer, right? Making sure that the data is everything is used in the right way, but also in a way that's meaningful at the end of the day to the shopper, right? We all still, I think, appreciate having personalized ads to us versus, why did I get this ad? I no interest in me versus, hey, you actually kind of know me. And I think, as consumers, we're getting more used to that. I think, all those topics are important to address, not just in isolation.
Do you ever feel like the unpopular kid at school having to defend GDPR?
No, it's actually pretty easy where we stand because, understanding, not using PII data or data that wasn't consented and everything, we, don't work in that platform and we don't, work with partners that have it that way, right? We want to make sure that data is collected in the correct way and aggregated and everything. But it is interesting because, there is a lot of, programs out there that are run differently that, shoppers or people might not know that it was collected from that perspective.
If you could reboot the data world for a fresh start, what's the first thing you do? And would it involve a marching band to celebrate?
Yes, I would love to go back and from the get-go, start with standardization of data, not, willy-nilly, this metric's important here, this one's here, and make a platform against all that and everybody competing for different metrics. Just really having that standardization that can level the playing field for all analysis and being able to understand that, the impact of media and everything from that perspective. And also, back to our other discussion of sharing data and everything like that, having real-time data, you are able to make, the right decisions versus waiting for historical data, right? It kind of goes back to, the premise of, how Pathformance started. Back in my day, we were working with 3-week-old sales data from, the big companies that resell the data and everything. By the time you made decisions or met with your buyer at retail or something, the market conditions had already changed, making decisions on really old historical data. So, my premise is like, what can we do in real time? Is the item there? Can you advertise it? Can you sell it? And can you measure it? And really, accelerating the rate of decisions and the right decisions being made.
Let's talk a little bit about mentoring. You've been hailed as a mentor to many, but let's face it. Do you consider yourself a Yoda with a snarky streak or a Zen guru?
Zen guru with a little bit of snarkiness. No. For me, it's really, I do have a soft spot for, mentoring people and, if I can offer any help or guidance or a shortcut of something that can accelerate that their career growth, I'm all in on that. Just really understanding any advice that you can help them. And really, one of the things I talk about is being proactive in your own career and don't wait for somebody else to give you permission to, move forward with that. Like, go on your own, you got this. You don't need someone, to help you say, yes, you can do this now from that perspective, but also keeping them accountable and understanding what their end goals and seeing if I could, help guide them along the way.
Is there anything you wish you could tattoo on everyone's forehead?
Let's see. Kind of my saying that I've said along in my career is there's no such thing as a Cheerios emergency. Back in the day when, you're working in CPG and everything and, things are blowing up or whatnot, it's like, it's going to be okay. The consumer, if it's out of stock, they're going to buy another flavor, another product. It's all good, right? So kind of taking things in stride and, it's all going to work out and just put your best foot forward. So really kind of take a breath of what you're doing and, it's going to be okay.
Okay. You've crossed paths with a lot of big personalities. Who stands out, whether in the best or worst way?
For me, someone that stands out in the best way is kind of a real life mentor real life, someone that you look up to would be Kim Perrell in the industry. She, is an amazing person that started.
Who's she with?
I'll get to that in a second. So, she started her own company and grew it into a multi-billion-dollar exit. She was the one that founded Amobi that had multiple exits and everything. So, She gives back advice to entrepreneurs and everything, and just really kind of a guiding star in the industry. So I think she's someone definitely to look up to and admire, and see that there's opportunities. If you put your mind to it.
Is she a marketing Yoda?
She is. She's I think a MarTech and AdTech goddess.
Do you often lean into tough love or play the cheerleader when someone's on the brink of a career meltdown?
For sure, I would start with the cheerleader, of picking someone up when they're down and, kind of bringing them to reality and say, this is something that, we can work through, or you've got this, or, how can I can help? It's not as bad as you seem, and helping them see that there's a way out of something, or put a plan in place, like, okay, let's, start at the foundation and, work through what the issue is or something like that. But also, it's okay to make mistakes, and mistakes should make us stronger. My philosophy has always been lean into those mistakes and really understand what you learn from them, and take them with you. If you could get through life without any mistakes, you'd be an anomaly, right? So a little bit of tough love, like this happens, fixable, but the guidance of, we've all had our biggest mistakes and worked out of them.
Have you ever had to tell an employee that just they're not right for this industry?
No, so far we've been pretty lucky with our team and everything, and just been blessed that way and have a great team. So not yet.
What's the most unexpected thing you've learned from mentoring others? Was it something like people will still try to use Comic Sans in 2024?
Yeah, exactly. I think it transcends through all the ages, but still trying to have that shortcut. What can I do that don't have to take the work?
There's a secret sauce to everything.
Right, exactly. Like, how do I get there faster, better, and not do it this way? And so I still think, reining that in and everything, like, no, unfortunately there's not. And you can try, but there's a way that is going to catch up to you, I think, in some sort of way in the industry. But yeah, just really, there's no, shortcuts, surrounding yourself with people that have done it and learning and everything, and then adding your own. But don't expect to, start here and, end up being the same.
I think the most profound thing you've learned in watching other people's train wrecks?
I would say taking accountability, understanding, what happened in the train wreck, and communicating that and letting other people learn from it, and kind of step back and be like, wow, what would I have done differently? Or, we've all been there, and there's this public, right? Or it happens in front of everybody or something like that. But, just really being like, we're all human, and how can we avoid those train wrecks in the future? And like I said, I think being honest about it and accountable is the best approach. It's not easy sometimes, but the best approach.
So you're a CEO with a resume that makes people sit up straight and put their phones away. But let's get real for a minute. How much of your daily grind is actually high stakes glamour, and how much is just keeping the wheels from falling off the corporate bus? What's the balance between orchestrating the next big move and dealing with, the delightful joys of printer jams and boardroom snark?
I love it. Yeah, the things that make the highlight reels are, strategic visions and acquisitions and putting different innovation in the marketplace. Those make the highlight reels and are the fun things to work on, but also, keeping tabs of the day-to-day operations and make sure that, projects are being delivered on time, that, team members are working together in the right way, and that we're delivering to our customers and everything is also very important and critical for the day-to-day. And then I think, finding the right balance between those two and understanding, when to move in and out of those and the right approaches to make sure that there's a future is really a delicate balance, but, something that has to be, worked upon and ebbs and flows a little bit too. I would say, you have to be nimble. You might have your day or week planned out. Things happen, or competitors change, or something happens with regulations. So just always be ready to pivot.
Let's be honest here a little bit. What is your secret coping mechanism? Is it yoga, screaming into a pillow, or delivering wine by the case?
Combination of all three. No. For me, it is truly just getting the tennis shoes on and getting outside and, walking or jogging and getting that energy out and being in nature to be inspired and just put everything away for a while is really a lot of what I focus on and try to, get a walk in every day to just clear the head and everything from that perspective. That and just putting my head in a book and reading and escaping from the day-to-day and understanding the bigger picture.
What's the craziest day in the life story that you got? The one where everything went haywire and you thought, this can't actually be my job.
I think, one of the best memories is, traveling, pretty as much far away from possible as, the office is and everything. And starting to get the phone call that I was traveling to the West Coast, and as I'm, landing and things are unrolling, it's like, what's happening? And I'm like, where are you? We need you. And, can you be available? And it's like the opportunity where I was at really wasn't a chance that I could step away and do anything. I was like, just really understanding like, hey team, you've got this, you're trained for this moment. You guys come together, you do what's best, and let me know what happens at the end. So really having a team that you can trust and empower that way is important.
Was there ever a moment you thought you'd just chuck it all and move to a beach?
Depends on what day or minute or hour it is, but yeah, absolutely. That comes to mind every once in a while, especially during moments of challenge or trying to continue growth and innovate and everything. You can be looking back and be like, wow, is this actually doable? What am I doing? Or things from that perspective. But then, taking a couple deep breaths and, understanding it's like, no, I am so passionate about, building this company and doing what we can do for the industry and having a team that can build alongside with me typically just, revs me up and gives me that energy and, truly understanding if it's something you're passionate about, it isn't work, but it's something like that can consume you sometimes. But yeah, we've all had the proverbial beach moments, but, I think, where we're going and what we see, I'm all
Running a fast-growing company, mentoring and being on advisory boards, where's the space to breathe, or is that just a myth?
right. It is a challenge and is, focusing on what's important and making time for what is important. For me, I think the benefits of having time to mentor and advise also helps me bring perspective back into the company and to talk to our team about and, our customers and things like that. So I think it's very important. And from that perspective, having, a team that understands where the value comes from this and supporting that and knowing when to, zoom in and zoom out and really be productive with my time, right? If I know I'm going to be working on the advisory, meetings that are coming up or the mentor opportunities, it's like, okay, focusing on that, and kind of time chunk that, if you will. And then, the rest of the time is, working on the business.
So let's fire up the crystal ball, Elizabeth. You've got a front row seat to the chaos that is ad tech and martech. What is your take? Are we barreling towards a golden age of marketing innovation? Or is this more of a hold on to your hats, we're heading to a cliff situation?
I think we're all in for kind of the next generation of takeoff, right? We talked about data, measurement, and standardization. I think with the advancement and incorporation of all things AI and everything from that perspective brings a whole new layer of things that can be done. Not only faster, better, more precise, more innovation that can never have been thought about before is really exciting to see. So I think we're just really, shooting down the fast train as fast as possible. And I think it'll separate the winners and the losers, right? Who's gonna stand? Who's gonna evolve? Who's gonna say, this is just a passing trend? Or I think that it's gonna be the cookie that never transpires and, trying to prepare for that, right? It's the ones that are gonna see, through the next couple of years and everything are the ones that embrace innovation and technology.
If I gave you the superpower to wipe one buzzword off the face of the earth forever, which one would it be and why? Maybe synergy, pivot, or dare I say metaverse?
I would say maybe segmentation, right? And you just hear that coming in all the time and like, what does that really mean? You're segmenting what?
Right.
You can over segment to the point where there's nothing left and you miss the person that you're trying to even reach. So I think, understanding this is what segmentation means, and you don't have to have segmentation on everything. Sometimes it's okay to have, more global message, if you will, and reach the masses versus, really trying to be that microscopic and, finding that one person that fits all 16 attributes that you're trying to be targeting towards.
Do you think people even know what half of these buzzwords mean?
I don't think so.
Is there a forbidden jar in your office for everyone someone says one of them?
There isn't, but there should be.
What's the most exciting innovation you see on the horizon? And don't give me any cliches.
The most exciting on the horizon, going back to the AI component, is understanding the generative AI and how it can be used at scale. I think that's still what's exciting and a good buzzword to be focusing on, and the ones again that are incorporating it in the right way and not just giving it airtime and saying add it to the website like, oh yeah, we're doing generative AI. It's like, what is actually working? Can you bring it to scale and truly making innovation versus an add-on of like, yes, we have the most current buzzword on our activation platforms. We can do it as well. But truly, the ones that are showing proof of it and making an impact with the advertisers, the brands, and understanding, really bringing valuable insights at a faster rate and more accurate.
long do you until the AI you think becomes self-aware and starts actually asking for weekends off?
I already seen it. Yeah, it is pretty scary how accurate and powerful it can be. And there's the point, from even seeing, I think some of us can even tell now, like I'm getting good at that. I'm like, wow, that is AI generated, or the overuse. Actually, I was just reading the Ad Age magazine. The last page was all about, everything's AI interface. Like, no, can I just make a LinkedIn post without, do you want an AI? Or your Google search. Sometimes, just the overness of having AI, it's like, I just want to have my own thoughts on this. It is helpful in its moments and, can, accelerate productivity, if you will. But I think there's a fine balance of everything's going to be generic and sounds like someone else's voice than your own.
Let's moving on a little bit. Let's set aside the spreadsheets and strategy decks for a moment. If you weren't the powerhouse CEO steering Pathformance through the wild waters of digital marketing, what alternative universe would we find you in? Are we talking a quiet life as a painter in the Provence, or running a dog sanctuary in the Alps?
Absolutely. Yeah, good question. For me, always kind of being an entrepreneur at heart and problem solving and, solving solutions for the bigger and greater good has been my passion. But honestly, if I have the opportunity and kind of always thinking like what's next is, just really my passion is, helping kids have, healthy nutrition and healthy meals, even at school or at home. Like there's got to be a better way where we can do that. And that is kind of like my huge passion for, figuring out how to make that a reality someday.
Yeah, I was amazed. I learned about food deserts a few years ago, and I was just amazed how people in the inner city just don't have access to grocery stores with fresh food and vegetables.
Absolutely. It's insane. I saw something just this weekend. It's in a different country, but a mom was sent home a note to say, stop packing fresh berries for her child at lunch because nobody else had fresh berries. So, like, really? So,
Well, that's horrible.
it is horrible.
Have you ever thought about dropping everything and becoming a yoga instructor?
Yes. Sometimes you got to stay up to Instagram and see like the influencers living the dream, right? Yeah, that would be great someday, but I think, short-lived and, always kind of itching to stay busy and what's.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
I always go back to, being able to control time, pausing it, going back for a minute, like, wait, I actually missed that moment. How do I replay it? Things like that. It is the one currency that nobody has influence over and nobody has more of it at any given moment than anyone else. And it's always depleting. So really just being able to pause time and understand what's happening around you, but not miss out on family moments or business moments or personal moments in the world. So that would be an amazing superpower to have.
What's the hardest challenge you ever had to overcome, either in life or career? Was there a make or break moment that made you who you truly are today?
That's a good question. I think, just truly, starting a business from scratch will be kind of every step of the way is where you can kind of have those moments of, is this working? What's happening? Is it going to be a go? And from things like that and all the blood, sweat, and tears and everything is it going to be successful and how do we do it? I think, having a vision and sticking to that vision and even when there's setbacks, still have to, stay the course and know that success is not a linear line. Have it's a common saying, but, my mantra is go for no, go for no, go for no, go for no. As long as you're getting a no, you're getting an answer and you can learn from that and move on. Don't dwell on things for a long time. But really just understanding can you keep growing at the pace you're growing and from that perspective and still able to be profitable and have the team that we want to have in place. But yeah, there's been, obviously a lot of setbacks and everything, but, just leaning into them and not giving up is so really important. I do have one comment too, like way back when I was starting, someone made a comment of like, well, that's interesting what you're doing. Go ahead and ride off into the sunset. We'll watch. And I was like, all right, that's some good fuel for a fire. I was like, oh, no. Watch, a good catapult to be like, no, this isn't happiness. This will be successful.
So if we played Survivor Ad Tech Edition and you could bring 5 people to be stranded with you, who would make the cut?
I love this one. I do have a list that I think about often. So let's see. First one, Joe Dispenza talks a lot about the ability to heal yourself and a lot of things like from that perspective. And, your thoughts are what you become and everything. Love all his materials and books. to follow him, I would invite Matthew McConaughey. I think he's a very interesting storyteller. From listening to his book Green Lights, it's
He
a
just like be
fascinating.
philosophizing around the campfire with you with his shirt off.
Absolutely, exactly, and the bongos. Remember, he's got bongos. Just his listening to his book and really understanding every day matters and your life is your life and what you can learn from it. So he would be sitting by the fire with the next person. You always need music. So Chris Stapleton, he's a great musician, great songs. I think that would be really fun by the fire at night. Emily Weiss, she's someone I look up to in the industry. She was the CEO and founder of Glossier. Amazing journey that she had and very transparent about it. So it would be a fantastic person to have. And cliche or not, Elon Musk, just finished his the book that he just had is incredible. Just his thought process of, how do you make things better, challenging your team to do it differently, even though the status quo, and shortening things and making things better and just compressed time frames was my biggest takeaway. And I think having him on the island would be something we could do, innovation that would be, rocket to the moon or rocket to the bottom of the ocean to see what's down there.
Is there a secret playlist or guilty pleasure song you belt out when no one is listening?
Let's see. Ocean. Can't think of one at the top of my head. If I think of it, I'll come back to you.
Well, the last question I have too, and I ask everyone, if you could send yourself a text message to your younger self starting out in the industry, what would you say? And would wide-eyed 22-year-old Elizabeth even listen?
Yeah, I think the text message would just say, keep going. The ups and downs, the sideways paths, the straight paths are all going to eventually get you there, but not in the way that you think it's going to happen. Keep with it, right? And, keep understanding what the questions is what I'm doing to keep moving me forward to my goals or away from my goals. And not sure if I would listen or not and be like, no, just give up and try something different. But I would just say, no, keep going.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Mad Women on the Adotat Show. CEO Elizabeth Johnson has dropped some serious knowledge, challenging conventions, redefining metrics, and proving that innovation doesn't come with a safety net. If you're still clutching on to yesterday's playbook, it's time to catch up, because this industry waits for no one, not even you. A big thank you to our sponsors, Troutman Amin LLP, the legal warriors you want on your side when the compliance stakes are high, and Origin at originmedia.tv, the digital innovators keeping eyeballs glued to screens with their killer ad tech. So, until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and make sure you know more than you did yesterday.